it's Mundo Monday. All summer long, we had lots of fun exploring folk and fairy tales from around the whole world. But now it's time to go back to school. But that doesn't mean we stop sharing stories. In fact, it's more important than ever to listen and appreciate the things that make us different and the things we have in common. Whether you go to school in person or talk to your classmates through the computer, you will interact with many different kids. And every one of those kids has their own unique story. Will you welcome each other in your many differences? Or will you hide, keep away, or worse, make fun of those differences? To show us two very different ways of dealing with our differences, we turn to Jacqueline Woodson, award-winning poet and author of books for toddlers through adults, and National Ambassador for Young People's Literature from 2018 to 2019. Jackie Woodson was born in Ohio and spent her childhood split between Brooklyn, New York, which was full of many different kinds of people from all over the world, and South Carolina in the 1960s, where people with different skin colors couldn't even go to the same schools or sit together in public places. You can read about her childhood in the verse memoir, Brown Girl Dreaming, which is one of Miss Amy's favorites.
Yes, read this book, anybody who's about 9 or 10 and older. In Brown Girl Dreaming, Woodson tells stories from her childhood in poems, so you'll actually find it in our poetry section. They're J811WOO.
So Jackie Woodson is used to being the new kid, the kid who sticks out as different from her accent, her race, her gender expression, her religion, even from the way she reads. But she wants everyone to know that that's okay. As National Ambassador for Young People's Literature, Jackie Woodson's biggest message was that books and stories can change you and give you hope. Let's see what she has to say about accepting our classmates.
Each Kindness by Jacqueline Woodson, illustrated by E.B. Lewis. That winter, snow fell on everything, turning the world a brilliant white. One morning as we settled into our seats, the classroom door opened and the principal came in. She had a girl with her, and she said to us, "This is Maya." Maya looked down at the floor. I think I heard her whisper. We all stared at her. Her coat was open, and the clothes beneath it looked old, ragged. Her shoes were spring shoes, not meant for the snow. A strap on one of them had broken. Our teacher, Miss Albert, said, "Say good morning to our new student," but most of us were silent. The only empty seat was next to me. That's where our teacher put Maya. And on that first day, Maya turned to me and smiled, but I didn't smile back. I moved my chair, myself, and my books a little farther away from her. When she looked my way, I turned to the window and stared out at the snow. And every day after that, when Maya came into the classroom, I looked away and didn't smile back. My best friends that year were Kendra and Sophie. At lunchtime, we walked around the schoolyard, our fingers laced together, whispering secrets into each other's ears. One day, while we were near the slide, Maya came over to us. She held open her hand to show us the shiny jacks and the tiny red ball she'd gotten for her birthday. "It's a high bouncer," she said. But none of us wanted to play. So Maya played a game all by herself. That afternoon, when we got back into the classroom, Maya whispered to me, "Bet you can't guess who the new Jacks champion of the world is." Behind me, Andrew whispered, "Chloe's got a new friend. Chloe's got a new friend." "She's not my friend," I whispered back. Weeks passed. Every day we whispered about Maya, laughing at her clothes, her shoes, the strange food she brought for lunch. Some days Maya held out her hand to show us what she brought to school. A deck of cards, pickup sticks, a small tattered doll. Whenever she asked us to play, we said no. The days grew warmer and warmer. The pond thawed. Grass began growing where snow had once been. One day Maya came to school wearing a pretty dress and fancy shoes, but the shoes and the dress looked like they'd belonged to another girl before Maya. I have a new name for her, Kendra whispered. Never new. Everything she has comes from a secondhand store. We all laughed. Maya stood by the fence. She was holding a jump rope, but did not come over to us to ask if we wanted to play. After a while, she folded it double, rolled the ends around each hand, and started jumping. She jumped around the whole schoolyard without stopping. She didn't look up once. Just jumped, jumped, jumped. The next day, Maya's seat was empty. In class that morning, we were talking about kindness. Miss Albert had brought a big bowl into class and filled it with water. We all gathered around her desk and watched her drop a small stone into it. Tiny waves rippled out, away from the stone. This is what kindness does, Miss Albert said. Each little thing we do goes out, like a ripple, into the world. Then Miss Albert let us each drop the stone in as we told her what kind things we had done. Joseph had held the door for his grandmother. Kendra helped change her baby brother's diaper. Even mean old Andrew had done something. I carried teacher's books up the stairs, he said, and Miss Albert said it was true. I stood there, holding Miss Albert's rock in my hand, silent. Even small things count, Miss Albert said gently. But I couldn't think of anything, and I passed the stone on. Maya didn't come to school the next day, or the day after that. Each morning I walked to school slowly, hoping this would be the day Maya returned and she'd look at me and smile, and I promised myself this would be the day I smiled back. Each kindness, Miss Albert had said, makes the whole world a little better. But Maya's seat remained empty. And one day Miss Albert announced to the class that Maya wouldn't be coming back. Her family had to move away, Miss Albert said. Then she told us to take out our notebooks. It was time for spelling. That afternoon I walked home alone. When I reached the pond, my throat filled with all the things I wished I would have said to Maya. Each kindness I had never shown. I threw small stones into it, over and over, watching the way the water rippled out and away. Out and away, like each kindness, done and not done. Like every girl somewhere holding a small gift out to someone, and that someone turning away from it. I watched the water ripple as the sun set through the maples, and the chance of a kindness with Maya becoming more and more, forever gone.
That is a sad story.
I have to work really hard not to cry when I read that one aloud. But it's okay if you cry when you're listening to it or reading it to yourself silently.
It's always okay to cry when you feel like it.
But this is one of those stories that Jackie Woodson talks about as changing you. Chloe, the girl in this story, changed. She learned from her mistakes in treating Maya unkindly. Do you think she'll be kinder to other kids from now on?
Definitely. That's where hope comes in. Please read a story now that shows us that kindness happening.
Yes, a hopeful book about sharing our differences. This is a story I actually read to you earlier this year when we first started doing online story times. But that was a long time ago, and I think we need it again right now. It's another story. The Day You Begin, by Jacqueline Woodson. Illustrated by Rafael Lopez. There will be times when you walk into a room and no one there is quite like you. Maybe it will be your skin, clothes, curl of your hair. There will be times when no one understands the way the words curl from your mouth, the beautiful language of the country you left behind. My name is Rigoberto. We just moved here from Venezuela. And because they don't understand, the classroom will fill with laughter until the teacher quiets everyone. Rigoberto, from Venezuela, your teacher says, so soft and beautifully that your name and homeland sound like flowers blooming, the first bright notes of a song. There'll be times when the words don't come. Your own voice, once huge, now smaller, when the teacher asks, what did you do last summer? Tell the class your story. We went to France, Shia says. These shells come from a beach in Maine. A boy named Jonathan holds out a jar filled with tiny shells so fragile they look like they'll turn to dust in your own untraveled hands. My whole family went to India, Spain, South Carolina. Each souvenir a small triumph of a journey. Their travels go on and on. And as you stand in the front of that room, you can only remember how the heat waved as it lifted off the curb, and your days spent at home caring for your little sister, who made you laugh out loud and hugged you hard at nap time. You can only remember the books she kept on reading long after she'd fallen to sleep. And in that room, where no one else is quite like you, you'll look down at your own empty hands and wonder, what good is this when other students were flying and sailing and going somewhere? There will be times when the lunch your mother packed for you is too strange or too unfamiliar for others to love as much as you do. When even your own friend Nadja will wrinkle her nose and say, what's in there anyway? You wonder how she doesn't see the rice beneath the meat in the kimchi. You wonder why she doesn't remember the rice is the most popular food in the world. There will be times when the climbing bars are too high, the run is too fast and far. The game isn't one you can ever really play. I don't want him on our team. You can watch. Maybe you can have a turn later. There will be times when the world feels like a place that you're standing all the way outside of. And all that stands beside you is your own brave self, steady as steel, and ready, even though you don't yet know what you're ready for. There will be times when you walk into a room and no one there is quite like you, until the day you begin to share your stories. My name is Angelina, and I spent my whole summer with my little sister. You tell the class, your voice stronger than it was a minute ago. Reading books and telling stories, and even though we were right on our block, it was like we got to go everywhere. Your name is like my sister's, Rigoberto says. Her name is Angelina too. All at once, in the room where no one else is quite like you, the world opens itself up a little wider to make some space for you. The day you begin to find the places inside your laughter and your lunches, your books, your travel, your stories, where every new friend has something a little like you and something else so fabulously not quite like you at all. I'm talking about exactly. This book makes me cry too, but in a good way.
That is hope. Hope that we can all accept each other exactly the way we are, the same and different. What do you think? Will you try to make a new friend this week? Someone who is both different from you and the same?